November 16th, I call to order the Woburn Traffic Commission. This meeting is being recorded for broadcast. Please silence your phones, and remember, once you come to the rail, that we are being broadcast. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Duran.
Here.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Here.
Commissioner Jolly.
Here.
Commissioner DeAmbro.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Sarkarellis.
Present.
Commissioner Corey.
Here.
And Commissioner Stokes.
Here.
And Commissioner Jeff Dillon.
Here. Is there a motion to dispense with the readings of October 19th, 2023, and accept the minutes of the same meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passed. Thank you.
Old business, request for safety measures on Stoddard Street.
Okay. So we talked about this in the October meeting. The petitioner is here. And are we all in receipt of the questions that we recently received yesterday? I think what may be the easiest way is if we go right down that list of questions and see if we can answer the majority of them, and then hear from the petitioner, and then any questions from the commission. So, with that said, take a look at the questions. Does everyone have the primary concern list? Everyone has that?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, safety and prevention for the children and the elderly of this community. Speeding. Primary concern is cars traveling in the direction from Main Street to Buckman Street. Drivers start increasing speed at the speed limit sign, gain speed as they go down the street. Some will attempt to slow just before the hill, most will not. My 75-year-old aunt was almost hit trying to get in and out of the car in front of my house and will no longer come to this street. Any response on that from the commission? Any action that we think we can take, or has been taken?
Well, if I could speak, I
Yes.
just so we can go over the paperwork I gave you on the data
Sure.
collector. So we've got about a month's worth sample. It's a pretty good-sized sample, I would imagine, but I will say there's the clear concern or problem right now, and I feel for the neighborhood, is the volume of traffic. It's evident in there that the volume is high, and that's it's squarely due to the construction project. If you notice the days where the numbers are significantly lower, talking 1,000 cars lower, those are the days that project's they're not working. And you know, the project is coming to an end. It's a few weeks out, and when those few weeks are done, all these numbers, I believe, will come back down to those numbers where the days are not working now, and that should bring things back to normalcy down on Stoddard Street. That's my opinion on that. So,
Okay.
the numbers are right there in front. If anybody has any questions about the graphs or the numbers, anything like that, you can feel free to ask me. But the speed, average speeds are all there listed. So.
Okay. Did the petitioner get that information as well? You can come to the... Thank you. Just state your name and address, please.
Deborah Cooper, 27 Stoddard Street.
And did you get the information on the travel data?
Was I emailed it?
Received it at all?
No.
Okay, we'll get that to you.
Okay, I just have one question.
Can
I?
you just go through them real quick and,
Okay, can I ask questions after?
pardon me?
Can I ask questions after?
Absolutely. That's why I
Okay.
figured we'd go right through them, and then if you had a quick response to any of them.
Oh, okay, I just had a quick response. to
Go ahead, go ahead.
Are the days you're talking about on the weekends? Because traffic is always less on the weekends.
I believe those mostly are weekend days, but there were some Saturdays they were working, so the numbers might have been a little bit higher. But, I mean, it's, again, the traffic volume concerns down there are clearly coming from the project that's happening. The Main Lake is closed off. GPSs are taking cars down Stoddard Street, down Hudson Street, down Richardson Street. And there's really not much alternative, but when it's over, those numbers will come down, so.
But it's always been a cut-through street, like, that's a concern.
Well, it probably is a cut-through street, correct? I mean, along with,
Yeah, since Dunkin' Donuts opened, it's a cut-through street, so.
okay.
I just don't want to blame everything on this construction, because
Well, I mean,
it was an
it's
issue
just-
before the construction. The construction has just escalated it.
Okay, I mean, this concern and complaints come up during the construction, so we were on the impression that, you know, the main reason for the complaints is the construction project, but I understand it's a cut-through street, you're right, but so is Hudson Street, so is Richardson. Every street along that way, unfortunately, is a cut-through street.
Okay, the concern is more about safety, but thank you.
Okay, we'll continue, and, go through these questions quick, and then you'll be able to give any feedback. Signage is poor and can be improved. There's one speed limit sign between Main and Arlington. There's one stop sign at the Main Street put up by the city. Most drivers think this is 30 to 35 miles an hour and not aware of the speed limit. So, is there anything that we can do in that case? Is there any type of signage that may be able to slow the traffic down?
Could I ask a question?
Please.
Sergeant Stokes, when you did the study, I read the results, and it seemed to say that the average speed, and recognize it's just an average, was somewhere around 16 or 18 miles per hour.
Correct.
That means obviously some people are going faster, some people might be going slower.
Right.
That's where you get the average. But I wondered if you saw any issue with speed that may not be reflected in that report.
No, I did not. Maybe Officer Gately can speak afterwards about any traffic enforcement he's done up there. I know some of the concerns with us being there, with them seeing the cruisers. So in the westbound direction, we shut off the machine, so this is a reading with no knowledge of this sign being on. But the bottom of the extended speed summary graph has a red line, which is the 85% speed, so 85% of the vehicles going down are traveling at that speed, which is, looks like between 20 and 22 miles an hour.
And that's the speed that we normally post a roadway at. So in this particular case, you'd be able to post something at 25 miles an hour. But it appears to me that the 85th percentile, they're doing barely over 20 miles an hour. So the need to regulate speed here, albeit you live there and I understand you periodically have concerns, and because of the increased volume and congestion, it makes it look difficult, but based on the data, everything is good. Matt, can you put Stoddard Street up on the, no? Okay, we'll all visualize it. We do have some side streets that we could put no parking here to corner, which would minimize some of the congestion in terms of parking. That will tend to irritate the people who live there. We do need a stop sign at the Arlington Road end. Do we have one there?
Not
No.
sure. And started in Buckman is a stop.
At Arlington
we
Road,
have
there's
one
not
there.
a stop sign there.
I'm sorry?
There's no stop sign there.
It started in Buckman?
Arlington, you
No, Arlington and Buckman.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
there
no
could be
stop
one
sign there.
there, because you have a minor street coming into a major street that would pass the MUCD warrants. Other than that, cautionary signage, you could have one for intersecting streets, but I just don't see,
What kind of sign would that be?
like a plus sign?
you'd have a yellow cautionary sign that would say intersecting street ahead. Other than that, I can't see a lot of signage that's required out there beyond an additional stop sign. And I agree with the sergeant in terms of Generally, if I'm going from Main Street down to Arlington Road, I would go Hudson Street. That's the easiest way for me, or I'll get down Pleasant Street, get on Arlington Road. Cutting through the side streets, Richardson, Stoddard, Veterans, those are all, people park on both sides, the residential streets, and I try to avoid them. You know, you have to drive slowly because you have built-in traffic calming with parking on both sides. So your lanes feel narrow, and you have a tendency to drive slowly.
So what about signage? Currently, there's a 20-mile-an-hour sign.
Yeah, back in the day, if an alderman requested a sign, it was a matter of, it would be placed up. Does it belong there? No.
Well, we found out at the last meeting it was not authorized, right?
Right.
Not in the code.
Correct.
Who can authorize it?
We can.
And what would be the reasoning not to authorize it?
Well, because the speed study shows that the 85th percentile is above 20 miles an hour.
Wouldn't that make sense to keep it at 20 miles an
Well, you're
hour?
required to, under the Uniform Traffic Control, we'd go to 25 miles an hour.
That's the irony, is
Yep.
that if you do the study and
And you
find
do it
out that
correctly.
85% or more of the traffic is traveling at a certain speed, that's what you have to post it for.
But wouldn't that be 20?
Be 20, well,
Be 25. You go to the next increment.
even though the average speeds are 16 and 18, you would go to 25.
85th percentile is what governs.
Yeah, but if 85th percentile is 20, then wouldn't
It's
you
above
keep it
20.
at 20?
It's above 20.
Yes.
Could I give this the,
Yes, please.
It doesn't have the email attached to it, does it?
Thank you.
I mean, we do have an illegal sign, which I would not advocate taking down. Problem is, if anybody stopped in that zone for going 20 miles an hour,
No.
and they look at the
I'll give
traffic
this regular copy without that.
regulations for the city, they could beat a speeding ticket in court, because it is an illegal speed limit.
Okay, so we can keep that sign up.
I'm not advocating taking it down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the signage issue? Yes.
I was down at Stoddard Street today. I spent about a half an hour parked on Stoddard Street. I saw two vehicles. There were cars parked on both sides. I did recognize all of the slow children signs. There's approximately about 7 of them.
There's 3.
There's 3 on Stoddard, and then there's Buckman, and then there's Arlington. I mean, as you go out to Arlington. There was a placard on the back of someone's vehicle, as well as someone has like a wet floor sign where they've pasted slow children as well. There were those 2 signs as well. So I drove.
Those have been up forever. The ones.
I'm just looking at what I saw.
Oh, okay.
So when I was there, again, I saw 2 vehicles. I parked on the side. A gentleman was raking his leaves. I kind of watched him, and I kind of waited for vehicles, and it was pretty mellow between the hours of 1:30 and 2 o'clock. And I understand it is a cut-through, but I live at 210.
Those aren't the times, though. Like, it's in the morning and in the evening, and that's what we had brought to your attention. And
I
that's why we were asking potentially for a resident only between certain hours, but you said that was illegal. But they've changed the resident only signs to do not enter during certain times around the city. So is that a possibility?
That would be something I would have to bring
Well, I
up
mean,
to.
it's the possibility to discuss and bring up, but we've been through this before in other streets where that becomes a concern for the entire neighborhood. I might need a public hearing on something like that, because do not enter means you can't enter either.
And I would be fine with that. Like,
But with the
I'm
other-
concerned more
does
with
it-
safety.
I
Like,
get that, but does that, you're fine with it, but are the other 40, 50 some odd people that live in the street fine with
They
that?
wanted resident only, so,
If they are, and, it's something we can discuss, but and in this case, I would be against it, because what that's gonna do is gonna push any traffic up to Richardson Street or Hudson Street. They'll be looking for it in Richardson Street, Hudson Street, and it's just, the public has a right of access to cut through there, and I don't see it after this construction project being done and being a major issue, so. But
Will you be looking at it after the construction project as well?
I can put I'm gonna take the collector down for a different street this week, but once the project's wrapped up, we can do it again, just to confirm the numbers are good. Sure.
Great.
Okay, I think it's more because like Dunkin' Donuts and the gas station
I
are
mean,
there.
I'm sure there's gonna be a decent amount, like you said, in the weekends, it's still a couple hundred cars, 200-300 cars, which, you know, may or may not be a lot, but we will see a significant drop in the numbers, there's no doubt on that, but we can get a judge of that once the project's done.
What were the highest numbers?
The highest number? If I had my reading glasses, I think it was about 1,500. That's, you know, the 24-hour period, and the busiest time is between 8 and 9 in the morning,
Yeah.
and that's clearly, if Lake Ave was open, the traffic would be stopped and out onto Main Street. All those cars have to get from point A to point B. It's just kind of a necessary evil right now.
Right.
All right.
That paperwork I gave you, I believe it's on the last page.
Next question. On-street parking on both sides of the street on a well-known cut-through street where drivers travel down the center of the street with no on-street parking on both sides of the street immediately increases the risk of children. Safety measures are not in place, and this is not safe for the children on a cut-through street. This means pedestrians need to try to cross the street between the cars. There is a crosswalk on Main Street and crosswalk at Arlington Road only. So, any response on that?
Again, that's another cautionary decision to make. I mean, could we have no parking on one side of the road? But how's that gonna affect the neighbors in the neighborhood where they can park their cars? Have no parking at all, but that creates other problems. Is the convenience and parking for the people that live in the neighborhood. Do they want that?
Again, you're correct, it would require a public hearing, so.
I mean, the fact that we have parking on both sides that is 85% occupied most of the time indicates that people don't have sufficient space in their own parcels or driveways or garages to park all their vehicles. They may have college-age children that have a vehicle, 3 vehicles, 4 vehicles to a family. If you restrict parking on one side or the other, those vehicles have to go someplace.
The other thing too, if you wouldn't mind, although I'm not an engineer, certainly not a traffic engineer, it's sort of generally accepted principle that if you have parking on both sides of a street, that in and of itself is a traffic calming measure of a sort, in that there's a sense that it's narrower, it's a sense that it's tight, without people even realizing they begin to slow down. When the road's wide open, without any, impediments, there might be a tendency to go faster. At least that's my understanding. Do you feel that?
I agree.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And also, and we ran on this with East Dexter, we put it on one side, and you also have to think of snow emergency. So when there's a snow emergency, there'll be no cars on that road. And again, it'll be wide open. And like my colleagues are saying, if there's no cars on that street, then it's definitely going to be a runway. And at the very end, there is a stop sign. I believe that's Bachman to go out to Arlington. That's going to be an abrupt stop once you get to the end of Stoddard Street on the other side, heading to Arlington. I think the cars being left on the street parking is a little bit more safe. It's a little bit of a buffer.
Right. What about the crosswalk?
Like a mid-block crosswalk, is that what you're thinking, somewhere along the road between the two ends?
So at the end of Stoddard Street, as it intersects with Buckman Street, right there, that whole intersection is a nightmare. There's cars parked like right up to the intersection. You have to go around. There's like, people don't stop with the stop sign. There's no crosswalk. It's really a very, very difficult intersection. There's 3 driveways, there's on-street parking. I mean, we had a huge issue yesterday, and just if you could put up a picture, which I asked, I had sent the pictures,
Yep.
you will see what that intersection looks like. Like, I've had to drive up and over the curb, like, people have hit the retaining wall at the house on Buckman Street. Like, this truck was like, it was complete gridlock yesterday. It was an absolute nightmare, and that's what happens. And you have these 18-wheelers going up and over the lawn of the house that's on, like, the curve, on the brand-new house that's on the curve of Buckman Street. So, like, that whole area is not safe. Like, it's not safe to walk through. It's not, and I'm not saying, like, at 1:30 to 2, it's not safe. I'm saying there's times during the day that that's a very, very difficult intersecting way, and it's not safe. So something has to be looked at there. If you look at the picture of where the truck came,
I
like,
understand.
that's the other issue too, is like, there should be no trucking coming through there.
Unfortunately, these trucks today, unless they have the high-tech Loran systems on the truck, or if they're just using Waze or Google Maps, it doesn't show truck routes. So
But it's
these,
a-
a
it was
lot
a-
of these, over-the-road truck drivers are not from around here. They're probably from the other side of the country.
Right.
They are not familiar with driving on these narrow, densely populated areas. They're used to the Midwest, they're used to sparse areas. So you have to take that into consideration. One bad truck driver going down the road, I see it all the time on School Street, and I have plastered no trucking signs on each side of that, on each end of School Street. And there's still 53-foot tractor-trailer trucks that, for whatever reason, mistake School Street for Industrial Parkway. And it happens daily.
But it was a direct detour at times, so it's telling him to go up our street.
And I believe if...
Like,
if
it's
he-
just not even safe. Like, he was out of his mind. He was out of his truck. I was going to physical therapy, and he was walking up Stoddard Street to talk to me. I thought he was just somebody walking, and I saw the complete gridlock. And he asked me if I knew whose car was, like, parked near the intersection. And I said, probably one of the houses over there, but it's not illegally parked. So, like, I'm not sure. And then I didn't realize he was the truck driver. And he's like, why? Like, no truck should come up here. No truck should come up here. There's not enough clearance. He was out of his mind, pissed, because he said, why would they ever send anyone, like a detour people up this street, including 18-wheelers that are going over property, like they're up and over, like making huge tire marks in front lawns. I mean, they can't make that corner. The corner is not big enough. But the city has sent people up there. Like, it's just not even safe.
And
If we have parking within 20 feet of an intersection, we certainly could sign that first 20 feet, no parking, because that's typically what it is. Again, it would cut a little bit into the supply of parking in the neighborhood, but it would clear a little bit around the intersections if we made sure they were all posted.
Well, I think we're looking at an outlier situation where there was a detour and the truck probably shouldn't have been sent up there, but for whatever reason, it happened and it created a problem. That's a very unusual situation.
It hasn't been unusual.
You
It
see
has not been. I mean, I know in Phase 6 of the construction project on the engineering plans, it was a direct detour up Stoddard Street, but prior to that, the detours were elsewhere, but they were still coming up Stoddard Street. So it doesn't really matter if there's a detour or if there's not a detour. Like, trucking, huge trucking has been coming up our street because there's no signage that says no trucking. Like, I talked with the company, RC Moore, from this guy, because he was so, he was pissed, absolutely pissed. Like, and I said, I can call for help if you want. And he's like, I'm stuck, I cannot go anywhere. And I don't know what the resolution of all of that was. It looks like they towed some cars and maybe sent the truck up Buckman. I'm not sure, but I talked with the director of safety at RC Moore, and he was a former retired chief police, and he said that you should be able to expedite a DOT sign for no trucking. Like, you can't just say blame Waze. Like, it's not safe.
Where are we at with the no trucking? What is the typical procedure to get something like that posted?
You have to have alternatives. We do have alternatives. We have Lake Ave and Arlington Road as truck routes from the downtown to Winchester. I can't imagine a tractor trailer saying, yeah, I'm gonna beat the traffic. I'm not going down Lake where I can actually turn my tractor trailer. I'm gonna get down Stoddard Street. I just don't see them. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, you live there, you see trucks, tractor trailers going there. I can't imagine them going there if their other routes are open and available.
We have them.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Already have
And
no trucking?
Pardon me?
Arlington already is posted no trucking, so that would eliminate the Buckman and Arlington concern, because they're not supposed to go on Arlington Road to begin with.
So that's
Like,
already
sorry.
posted.
Quick question, if I may. I just trying to wrap my head around, who told this tractor trailer driver to go down your street?
So if I could speak.
Yes.
Because the story I got from the officer that was and this happens from time to time in a lot of different neighborhoods. Truck drivers get lost and whatnot. I don't know if it was because of the detour or not, but the story I got was he was lost and turned around, and he committed himself up Buckman, and he couldn't make the turn because of a car that was parked there. As the car was parked illegally, we towed the car, the truck went on its way. But it's a very rare occasion. Even during the construction, this is the first time I've heard of an 18-wheeler going up Stoddard Street, so.
we have complained about this, like, months ago. The response was, there's nothing we can do, blame Waze.
Again, all I can speak to is what is my recollection of when I received calls. It's the first time I've heard of an 18-wheeler, but even so, it's the first time there was an issue, and
Yeah, there was the first time it got stuck, but other times they're going up and over lawns. Like,
again, it's the first.
it's not okay.
What lawns are you speaking of over there?
It's the house on the corner of Buckman. They took pictures. You couldn't get them, but. Yeah, there's huge, deep tire marks in their front lawn.
So if I can ask from the chair, the reluctance to put no heavy trucking there is not so much that it doesn't happen so often, is that we're gonna drive the trucking more to other streets?
I don't see the trucks going there. We have to furnish a truck study. The police department has to go out, put their unit out there that counts the number of trucks on the street. If you're greater than 8%, I believe it is, I might be wrong there, I'll have to check Mass DOT. You have to define alternative truck routes, then you have to submit it to Mass DOT, and they will make a ruling. We can't determine it locally.
You can't determine what?
We cannot determine it locally.
So it's not a simple matter that we can go out and put a no heavy trucking at the end of Stoddard Road. The explanation was given, the procedure, and we could have a vote on whether or not it seems appropriate by the traffic commission, if someone made the motion.
I have calls into a lot of people about this issue.
I hear you, ma'am.
I
That's
can
what we're
give you
here-
the list of everyone I've called.
That's what we're here trying to
Okay,
figure out for you.
okay.
Yes.
May I speak? So just for everybody's clarification, so everybody understands the logic of what, or the logistics of what happened. They're on the final leg of installing the last piece of duct bank from Lake Avenue to Pickering to connect the dots. To do that, they had to close the road entirely. When they closed the road, and we've made it a condition of their permit, of Eversource's / McCourt's permit, that they had to keep one-way traffic open at all times except under extenuating circumstances. So that was the extenuating circumstance. They were cutting across, and there's no other way to get them across. So police had to block the road and send everybody around.
Including the 18-wheelers.
The picture you sent, I thought was a box truck. Is it,
Oh, it's an 18.
was it an 18-wheeler? Okay,
It was an extended 18-wheeler, like,
okay. you know.
But that's what we see coming, like, we see cement trucks, we see like trucks carrying like cars, I forget what they're called, like flatbed trucks with cars on them. We have those, we have, like, where's the liability though? Like, where is the liability? Like, doesn't it come down to the city? Like, if anything happens, or like, so when they're driving up on somebody's lawn, isn't that a criminal problem with the city?
Sergeant Stokes?
No, I
wouldn't
mean,
think
not
so.
unless it's done purposely. And again, the only one I'm aware of.
So
is
if
the
it's
one
done
from
by
yesterday.
accident, it's fine? I mean, they're doing it purposely to turn around, to get around a corner.
But this is I've heard of the one yesterday, this is the first time I've heard of multiple 18-wheelers going down Stoddard and Buckman Street during this entire project.
Talk to the neighbors.
All right, if we can, move on. I guess we jumped over bus stops, so we'll go back to the bus stop.
What list are you looking at? Because like
I believe you sent primary concerns.
From last
yeah, that
month?
was like before the last meeting.
Yeah, the most recent one,
It's,
Thursday, November 16, 2023.
What's that start with?
Questions, Traffic Commission meeting, Thursday, November 16, 2023.
Ones we got yesterday.
3.5 pages. Yep. 17 questions
Okay.
or issues.
Can I get a copy
there's
of that?
16, I skipped a number, sorry.
Oh, I see that.
If we look at one, I think we already addressed that. With the traffic study, collection data, correct?
What about the engineering?
We have engineering right here.
They don't do written reports, so to speak, if that's what you were thinking, when this kind of issue comes up. The report is the verbal one kind of during the meeting, right? So,
Correct, that's correct.
Okay.
Believe number two, what are the type of signs availability? Believe we talked about that already. 3, speed bumps, virtual, painted. I'll leave that up to the commission to respond to.
I just didn't know where the state was at with that. Like, it's just other countries are doing it and other states are doing it.
They use them in a number of communities. I'm familiar with the ones in Belmont and Watertown. They call them speed tables. They generally use them in high traffic congested areas.
I'm
They
talking
are-
about virtual, like painted, they're flat.
Well, they have the 3D ones, but what they found with those is that people are startled by them and tend to hit their brakes and people bump inside, so they're not the best in the world either. The speed tables, speed bumps are just a liability. People can lose control. And it's usually somebody who's driving faster than they should be, and they don't know it's there, and they hit it, and they swerve and end up bumping into a car. So over the years, we've seen those as a liability, and we generally will not propose them. I do not support them.
So nothing painted on the, like, I don't know what's available. That was just,
We have
it
not
was just a
used
thought.
them.
It was a creative thought.
We
that's
have
all.
not used those as yet.
Okay.
Number 4, the heavy commercial trucking, we had talked about already. Number 5, accident reports from Mass Highway. Accidents reports from Woburn PD. From what I understand, there's not much to report.
No, we can generate a list, but I did go back 5 years on calls of service, and only one call for service was for a crash. It happened to be on the Halloween parade date this year, and as it turned out, I read the report, it wasn't a crash. It was a bit of a road rage incident between people fighting for a parking spot for the parade, so.
Okay.
But, so there is, I'm not personally aware of any crashes on Stoddard Street that I've responded to or I've heard dispatched in 29 years I've been a police officer in Woburn, and I went back 5 years, and I can't find any reports of any crashes.
They gave me a report with 3, and then I've contacted Mass Highway because they told me that, like, you guys only have the reports where you were called to the accident, I guess. Like,
Called,
it's
that's what I have, just
not
those
any other report of any kind of accident on the street. Like, I know multiple residents have been in accidents on the street, like
Yeah,
at the
If we don't
hill.
get called, we don't have any information on it at all, no.
Yeah.
But did you say that you did get a report from Woburn PD that showed 3 accidents?
You have that?
I don't have them with me, no. They were at the intersection
Possible,
between
yeah.
Main and Stoddard.
I was gonna say, it's possible Main and Stoddard, and it couldn't have been
Yeah.
logged as Main Street, but that's a very typical accident coming out of any street, especially on the Main Street. Over, I don't know how many years back they went, but over X amount of years, you're gonna have accidents at those intersections.
Would it be possible to provide her with the list of the 5 years that you did go back and see? Is that public info?
Yeah, I think that she'd have to go to the records department, request it, or request it to the chief's office, I'm not quite sure.
I already did,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, again, that type of accident,
Wait, we'll open it to the public as soon as we're done here. Absolutely, you'll have your chance.
as the sergeant pointed out, that type of accident that you have with a minor road intersecting with a major street, such as Main Street, it requires a stop sign. We do have a stop sign there, so there isn't anything additional you can put. And again, for the volume of traffic for a neighborhood like that, over a 5-year period, to have 3 people be a little impetuous trying to get out on the Main Street, I don't think that certainly does not exceed Mass DOT's crash standards.
If I can go to 6, parking. What is the traffic code in Woburn about parking at an intersection way? Is there a recommended distance requirement to the end of the street with the stop sign? Particularly at Buckman and Stoddard, we talked a little bit about that. Cars ignore the stop signs. With the cars parked in the area, the visibility is decreased, and it's difficult to navigate this area. Because this area has been a cut-through area, this intersection way is not safe. There are 3 driveways at the intersecting way. Is there a standard for an intersection way, and what are the possibilities for changing this to make it safer? What is the code in Woburn for parking next to a driveway in feet and near an intersection way and on sidewalks? So,
Question was 17 parts. I would like to deal with one part
yes.
and defer to the DPW commissioner in that under state law, with his approval, he can erect signs, no parking here to corner, where he deems it to be necessary. So I would,
Make a motion, well, first.
I
hear
wasn't
from
going to make a
DPW.
motion, I was just going to make mention and see if it's something that he was willing to take a look at.
We can certainly take a look at that.
Okay, thank
20
you.
20 feet, it'd probably be 20 feet here to corner. Again, parking's a premium. You got a densely populated areas, so be careful, you know, your neighbors aren't gonna be happy. I mean, I know we gotta look at safety, we're certainly looking at safety, but everybody's gonna be, you know, on the parking, especially where you come to the winter months. You just need to take, there's a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. I didn't know if you could do it like a little bit from the intersection, because when there are cars like on all sides parked at that intersection, like you can't see a thing, and people are going, like that picture that I sent you with the truck, like that's what happened, the congestion that happens at that intersecting way, because there's just no room.
We could certainly look at 20 feet here to corner on both sides.
It's about a car length.
At Stoddard, and Buckman,
Stoddard and Buckman, correct?
yes.
Okay. 7, can parking lines be added to, as a traffic calming measure to alert cars where parking is on the street? what determines where residents can park, what impacts this decision, will the engineering department be assessing the safety of parking on both sides of the street, making recommendations for parking near the intersecting ways? What is the definition of the travel portion of a public way? What is the travel portion of a public way on Stoddard Street and Buckman Street?
If I may, the simple answer to that 15-part question is, in the south end, we have typical 40-foot right-of-ways, 4.5-foot concrete sidewalks, 6-inch granite curbs. So that leaves about 30 feet of pavement. Typical parking spaces, 7.5 feet on either side, that's 15 feet, leaves you 15 foot for a traveled way. So
But Stoddard Street is 27 feet wide.
again, typical 40-foot right-of-way, about 30 feet, sometimes less. At any rate, almost all of the streets in the south end have that type of configuration. Everything parallel going all the way down Arlington, with the exception of, I believe Hudson is a little bit larger, but that's the only one. All the other ones are narrow streets, 40-foot right-of-ways, and they have parking on both sides. And that's because it's an older section of the city, and there's just less room in the driveways for people to park, and they have larger families with more vehicles. So if we were to go through and say, okay, let's mark out parking spaces, you would actually lose parking spaces, because we would use the actual design standards on, all right, you have to be 5 feet away from the driveway, you have to be 18 feet away from the intersection, 5 feet on either side of the hydrant. Now you start losing spaces and you start displacing parking spaces. So,
I do understand that, but that was kind of my question. It was like, our street doesn't go by any standard rule of any of that.
If you, Title V of the traffic codes and regulations has a list of all the
feet and
the
everything,
feet, everything
yeah.
else, like, you can't park obviously on a sidewalk, on a crosswalk. It is 20 feet from an intersection. 10 feet obstructed, which means you have to leave at least a 10-foot space. So if the street's 27 feet apart and the cars are probably 4 feet wide, that's plenty of space for the car to go through. So that's what that one means.
4 feet wide for a car? Like, my car is 6.5.
Right, so it's even 6.5, and 6.5 is 13 feet, plus 10 is 23, so you get an additional 4 feet there. So if it was too tight and within 10 feet, we would go down and assess it, and we'd have to probably have a car moved or a car tagged. But that particular item, again, all these, obviously, you said you saw this Title V, so you know what I'm talking about, in the traffic regulations?
I looked at traffic regulations, but I didn't think they applied to Stoddard Street for some reason, because
every street.
nobody follows any of that stuff.
I haven't seen any, and I mean, if we get called for a crosswalk or a sidewalk or parked in the wrong direction or 20 feet from the intersection, we always go down there and address it, whether we have it moved, or we have it tagged, or we have it towed, it's addressed by us if we're made aware of it. If we're not made aware of it, there's nothing we can do about it, but.
Even if you see it? I'm just curious.
If we see it, we're made aware of it.
All right, on the safety zones, I believe we've already talked about that. Number 9, traffic calming measures. What is Woburn doing in the city for traffic calming measures and safety programs? Other cities are adopting to slow traffic with calming programs and safety programs to make streets safer. Will you be looking at the design matrix for healthy streets within the traffic calming guides?
if I may, we do have a complete streets program. It's minimally funded through the state. We put in 25% share. We are looking at rapid flashing beacons along Arlington Road and Lake Ave as a project for next summer. Small streets like Stoddard Street in residential neighborhoods are fairly down the list of priorities. We try to deal with the main lines first.
I just
know
meant a
that's not
general
great-
question for the
Sure.
city. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I think we've talked quite a bit about 11, speed safety. You agree?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said I think we've already addressed the safety, question number 11.
Yes. you said
Thank
that.
you. 12, citywide, 25 mile per hour. Why was this not accepted in Woburn with 2016 recommendation, parentheses, chapter 90, section 17C? Why hasn't Woburn opt-in, and will Woburn be considering opting in when might this happen? Is anyone familiar with that?
I remember the council considering a request, I think it was Alderman Campbell,
It was.
that proposed that the city adopt that state law and go 25 citywide. Did this
And we, in
body-
fact, discussed it here
Yeah.
at the Traffic Commission, excuse me, and said we believed it was a policy decision that should be made at the administrative level before we dealt with it.
Meaning city council.
Right.
And I don't know what they did, but apparently, I know they did not adopt it in the end. I don't know what they had for a discussion, though.
Well, you may want to reach out to your city councilor, who happens to be me, and we can talk about that. And I'll bring it to city council, see if there's any interest.
You were
Okay.
not on.
There's
the
a
council.
lot of adjacent towns that are doing it, so.
Yes, sir.
Just to back up a little bit, would it be advantageous at all for us to post, and can we do it, post 25 mile an hour, thickly settled 25 mile an hour, the yellow signs? I know that they're not really enforceable, but a suggested speed limit, like 3 of them along Stoddard Street? I mean, I know right now the speed limit's 30, correct, Sarge?
Correct.
So
I thought we were leaving up the 20 mile an hour. This was more a question on like citywide.
Yeah, you have a 20 mile an hour sign that's posted illegally on a telephone pole. I mean, my suggestion is to take the thickly settled 25s and post 3 of them along the length of Stoddard Street, which I think would be a lot more visible and much more effective because they're yellow signs as opposed to that white 20 mile an hour one that's just posted on a telephone pole. But, just a suggestion.
And that no longer meets retro-reflectivity for uniform traffic code. This sign's probably 30 years old.
Would the thickly settled 25 mile an hour one be compliant with MUTCD? That's the manual on uniform traffic control devices.
we
You're
could
not
do-
supposed to put up a sign that is not in that book.
We could do that. We could request a 25 mile an hour thickly settled area, but we'd have to do Stoddard, Buckman, and the contiguous streets, and it would require 2 public hearings, or a public hearing and
Okay.
a number of readings.
But it's possible.
And am I correct in saying that perhaps wouldn't have the commission's support until after we see how the construction is played out?
Well, again, a speed limit change has to go through the state. They can always
Could
say
go
no.
up? It could go up as well?
Well, we're going to 25 because that's what the 85th percentile says.
Okay.
So that 20 mile an hour sign would have to come down.
I thought we already said it was gonna stay up because it
Yep.
was 20.
Well, this is a new proposal now.
Yeah, this was a new,
So if we posted at 25, we can't have a conflicting speed limit sign.
I was talking about like on Main Street and stuff. Like I came across it and I had talked to Lindsay about it. And I just didn't know why the city wasn't doing like Main Street and all of that at 25. Maybe I don't understand what it means.
If
don't
I
know.
may, generally speaking, communities, when they post 25 mile an hour town-wide or city-wide, it's for those streets like Stoddard Street, but any posted street that is 30 or greater remains. So if you have a street that's posted at 30 miles an hour, 25 doesn't apply to it. If it's 35, 40, that doesn't apply. It applies to those streets of, side streets that are not posted. Now, you can add other streets to it and say, okay, we're gonna add Wynn Street. We're gonna make that 25 miles an hour. But again, it requires a public hearing process and a number of readings, and then it has to go through city council.
okay. But to
Okay.
answer your question now, you'd prefer to leave the sign that's there currently, correct?
Correct.
But good suggestion, and I appreciate everyone putting their input in. 13, Vision Zero programs. Is Woburn considering adopting any safety plans like this? I'll look at my experts and see if they can explain to us what Vision Zero programs are.
We are not currently involved in any. We do complete streets. We've applied for shared streets. We did the safe routes to schools, the speed for schools. There's about a half a dozen programs that we have participated in. That's one that we haven't.
All right, 15, can you explain the MUTCD put out by Federal Highway and how this may impact decision-making for the engineer's assessment and recommendations? Will residents be able to talk to engineers directly with any questions and concerns? I've spoken with traffic engineers from other communities who have been very helpful in answering some of my questions and concerns.
If I may, the MUCD is the Massachusetts Uniform Traffic Control. It dictates all signage, street signs, warning signs, retroreflectivity, speed limits, all of the requirements for streets and signage. We are required to follow those. Everything that the DPW erects is an MUCD compliant sign. And it tells you size, what you're allowed to say it on. You just can't make signs up that say, hey, be cool, slow down here. You have to follow the Uniform Traffic Control, which is put out by Federal Highway Commission, and all states abide by that. And as the city engineer, feel free to call my office anytime, send me an email, I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No problem, thank you.
I feel like I haven't been very helpful this far. And I don't mean to say no to people. Nobody wants to hear the word no, but we have to do what's allowed by the laws and the ordinances.
Woburn to Wake, question 16, Woburn to Wakefield project. Who's responsible for approving proposed engineering plans? I guess we're here, so I'll read it. I'm not sure it's on the agenda, though, because it falls not regarding the Stoddard Street, so I don't want to...
It is regarding Stoddard Street, though. It's about the safety plan and the detours and who is responsible for keeping adjacent streets safe during a huge construction project like this.
Very well. Woburn and Wakefield project, who is responsible for approving proposed engineer's plans? Who is responsible for the required safety plan? Who can adjust these plans when safety concerns arise? I've talked with Eversource multiple times, as well as Dennis, and who did the layout and street mapping, and I am waiting for a call back from Nick from engineering.
I have a guy named Nick.
Maybe that's from
State, was it state agency?
Eversource.
Nick,
Eversource.
Through the
Eversource she spoke to.
Yeah.
oh, the engineering division of Eversource, okay.
through the chair.
So, do we have any information on the Woburn and Wakefield project?
And
I would defer to
so
The
the
Commissioner.
plans have been approved by the Department of Public Utilities. And they were in, city engineer and I went in there to debate those plans and talk about the different routes, you know, going back 5, 6, 7, or 8 years ago, I'm not even sure now.
It was 2017.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, but it started long before that. So it was debated back and forth. We looked at different avenues. The Department of Public Utilities made that decision for the city. City Council had to sign off on that. There's a whole memorandum of understanding that the city has agreed to in compliance with that, to be in compliance with Department of Public Utilities. I mean, as you probably know, the project goes from Winchester to Woburn to Winchester to Woburn to Stoneham and to Wakefield. So it's not just Woburn that's being inconvenienced. We've done our best to try to manage it as best we can. And ultimately, I'm the person that issues the permit for them to do the work, the street opening permit. And then we work with police and engineering and fire to make sure that public safety has access generally at all times.
So when you call for a public safety issue and you're not getting any response, who owns that?
When you say public safety issue, can you be more,
Specific? Say that again?
can you be more, what are you referring to?
So calling for safety for residents and children on our street, like with all of the traffic, with the speeding, but honestly, it quieted down with my signs that I put up. They
Is that
work.
not what we're doing here today for the last hour and previously?
This started 2 months ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
If I could also, I did speak with Ms. Cooper back in late September, and last meeting I listed all the traffic enforcement we did on that street. In last meeting, we decided to do the survey as well. When we get called for service down there like we did yesterday, we go down and we address the situation and take care of it. So I don't know if it's the police you're saying aren't helping you out or not, but when we're called for service, we respond.
And if I may, Commissioner Duran has held weekly meetings for the last 4.5 years with the Eversource contractors, coordinate with police department, the fire department, ensuring that there is pedestrian access and vehicle access and emergency access along Lake Street and Arlington Road. I can't tell you the amount of energy that he has put into this. And I think he's done an excellent job. We've all seen horrible-looking construction areas. This is not one of them. This has really been a fantastic project.
Maybe I can address that with someone else later.
Pardon me?
I said maybe, I don't know who to address it with, those questions. The
ones that-
questions that I have is who is responsible for,
Don't you, what I would do is use the city clerk as a clearinghouse, Lindsay Higgins, and she will forward it to all of us. And whoever it belongs to, we'll all take a crack at it.
okay. Thank you.
No problem. Are you all set now? I'll ask anyone else if they have any other questions.
We didn't do the last question.
17.
In 14 parts.
Why is there, well, I thought we just addressed that. We've been here today. We were here last month. We've done a traffic study. We've taken your questions individually. So I guess I'm perplexed at your belief that there's no lack of interest or trying to help you. Am I correct?
So this had to be expedited level to level to level to level in order for anyone to do anything. So that is kind of my concern about this. And it feels like you're just kind of pushing things aside, I guess.
I'm sorry you feel that way, because that's not the case at all. There's been studies done. There's been questions answered. Is everything answered to your liking? I don't believe that's right now done, but we're going to continue to ask if there's anyone else. If this needs to carry on to another meeting, that will be the commission's decision, but I just want you to realize that you are being heard, and there is work being done for you, so, as well as for the other residents, because that is...
That's why I'm here.
Correct.
You know.
So I just didn't understand the question when you see what's all been done and continuing. But again, if you're set for now, I'll see if anyone else has any questions. And then I want to get Officer Gately to give his opinion on the area as well. Yes, please come up to the rail and state your name and address, please.
Patrick Scott, 40 Buckman Street. A few quick questions. One, what is this, is the speed limit on Buckman and Stoddard 30 miles per hour?
Yes.
Okay, and is it true that you cannot ticket somebody until they're doing 40?
No.
Okay, because that's what I was told.
The discretion of the officer.
Okay, because they said state law, you can't write anything above 10 miles over the speed limit.
If
Because the thing
it
is.
is, I'm not aware of it, but.
Okay, well, the thing is, there's, like I often tell my kids, there's what you can do and there's what you should do. And it sounds like most people are doing what you should do. They're slowing down, they're doing 16 miles per hour because it is densely packed on both sides before everyone leaves for work because they have to park someplace. But then there's the outliers, are people doing what they shouldn't do, and they're going 30 miles per hour or over 30 down that road. Or they're not paying attention because people get distracted, or they're parking on the sidewalk obstructing pedestrians, which means you have to walk in the street, and there are a fair amount, including me, because I walk the dog regularly.
Sure.
So it's just a concern, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I don't know what you can do, but I'm also hearing, well, we can't enforce that, or, the parking to the corner, you're saying that we have to call you, we have to police that. When somebody's parked on the sidewalk, we're the ones who have to call you and tell you.
Not part of my interruption, but of course, we patrol, and if an officer sees it, he's gonna act on it. But if we don't see it, shaking your head like we don't.
Well,
Excuse me. Can we let,
I guess my point was, if we're aware of it, we're gonna address it.
Okay,
We're not
'cause
ignoring,
I see
and believe
cruises-
me, I feel for you guys, I see the numbers, there's a high volume of traffic that goes through that street.
Yeah.
I feel strongly when the project's over, you're gonna see a lot of relief, okay? Thankfully, there has not been any incidents down there.
Yeah,
There has been on Hudson Street, Richardson Street, things have gone smoothly.
yeah.
But we just jinxed ourselves, but, we're all trying to do the best we can, and we can't, if we don't see it or not called, obviously, we can't act on it.
Okay. I guess that's about it. It recently got worse because the detour was, McCord actually sticks the sign out on the corner now. So that's when you have the big trucks, the big tree trucks moving up and down instead of avoiding it. Again, you said common sense, but unfortunately, there are those people that do what they can and not what they should. So that's it.
I'll tell you just my personal opinion, because I do a lot of the traffic signals and have to look at, watch traffic actually go through intersections. The amount of inconsiderate and erratic drivers that exist out there today, they're scofflaws.
Yeah.
I see them run red lights, I see them take right-hand turns on red and change lanes without signal, and unfortunately, that's the way of the world these days.
I have to cross Arlington Street on a regular basis over the pond, and
Sure.
I can tell you that you have to look both ways. No one's going to stop for you if you're in a walkway. They don't
I agree
care.
with you.
With the flashing lights or not, so.
and what may help
Anyway,
your,
that was it.
what may help some of your questions is, after everyone's done speaking, I'm gonna ask Officer Gately, who patrols that particular area daily.
Okay, well, actually, and I appreciate that, Officer Gately, I really do, because I see you out there in front of her house monitoring. I actually have to leave for another appointment, because
You can watch us on TV. at
then I
your
will. Thank you very
convenience.
much.
Thank you.
Through the
And by the
chair.
way, this form of government's way better than town government, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak on this matter, please come up to the microphone. Please tell us your name and address.
My name is Cynthia Bradley on 13 Stoddard Street. My father, it was a while ago, but my father was hit right on the slope of the street on Stoddard Street, right on the hill, because somebody was coming up that hill so fast that he just hit on them. But that was quite a few years ago, but it does happen.
Sure.
And my father walks every day, like 3 times a day, and he has to go out into the street and around cars that are parked on the sidewalk. And he's elderly. He's pretty old, and he shouldn't be walking on the sidewalk,
agree.
on the streets, especially on the corners, right, like she was saying earlier, down on Buckman and Stoddard. There's no way he can get around that stuff.
I think that will help when we take a look Commissioner Duran's gonna take a look and see if the 20 feet from corner signs will help.
Do you know when this construction's going to be done?
I'll leave that to my experts.
We're doing, they're doing their best. And
Oh,
we've
I
allowed
understand that. I
we've
just
al-
want an
we've-
approximate.
They supposedly did the last leg of the duck bank today. There's still other work to be done, and there's still drainage work and things like that. But generally speaking, all of the conduits have been installed.
So the detour is gonna be
majority of the duct
taken
work,
off?
the majority, hopefully, they gotta pull the cables and all that through. So hopefully they don't have a problem with their cables, so I don't even want to talk about that. But the excavation, once we get that all excavated, we can close the roads up and things will go semi back to normal. We still gotta repair some drainage and utilities that they've damaged. But the majority of the work is done. We're on the home stretch. As you can see, we started restoring
So maybe
parts
a
of
couple
Pickering.
weeks, a month?
Once the snow flies, I have no choice but probably to kick them out. But I don't want to, I'm trying to get it all done so we don't revisit this in the spring.
And there's a good chance that it will be done this year before the snow
We're
flies.
certainly hoping. It's in the hands of God.
And through the chair, Superintendent Duran, with these projects and the magnitude of them, there's just no way to predict what you might find under there and the problems that may come about. So that's, in a perfect world, in a perfect bubble, I'm sure you could, but
Exactly. I mean, I think that they've done a reasonable job. We've conditioned it so they had to have a lot of police details. At times, they had 10 police details at a time on Lake Avenue. So they've done everything we've asked. It's just a tight neighborhood. So we're on the home stretch, so hopefully we can finish up.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this matter? If I could ask Officer Gately to give us his idea what's happening out there. I know you're out there all the time, and we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Officer Gately, Woburn Police. After the last meeting, I went right to her house that following morning. I was there around 7. Stayed there till about 10 minutes to 9. We had a conversation. I manually counted the cars, and it was significant, but the top speed I had was 28 miles an hour. And I did stop one, I believe 28 or 27. I stopped somebody and just said, hey, listen, bring it down. But that's about the maximum you can do, is just go out and tell them verbally to slow down. You know what I mean? I didn't see a speed issue. I only saw one pedestrian on the other times I was there, and that was the gentleman that spoke earlier. I seen him walking his dog twice on 2 separate occasions. I didn't see another person, other than one person getting into their car to go to work at like 7:15. So I'm not seeing the pedestrian traffic, the foot traffic, like high volume where you need, 3 crosswalks or whatever the people think is safe. I'm okay with. It's not my job.
Do you think it's a unusual situation with the heavy trucking situation that happened?
I've just this past year, I've had a truck go up Franklin Street, jam up Franklin in Maine. You just have to, the truck drivers have to take some responsibility for their own actions. I mean, you're driving a 53-foot truck. Common sense would dictate, not to go down some side street, even if there is a detour sign. I drove a truck. It didn't happen to me. You know what I mean? You use some common sense, a lot of these things would be averted. But it happens on Bryan Street commonly. It's happened on Middlesex and Chestnut Street. They just take the shortest route, and I think they're being lazy. Instead of going down Arlington Road, making a right, or spending the $5 to get the proper truck app, to follow the correct trucking route, and this episode wouldn't happen. Are some box trucks coming through? Absolutely, but so on water delivery trucks, so on they have a right for commerce, and they can get through that neighborhood. We don't have this issue on Richardson Street. We don't have this issue on Hudson Street. Seems to be the quickest route to avoid Lake Ave, and they're bearing the brunt of it. It is a means to an end. I'm not seeing You know, the volume, if, you would think there'd be an accident a day there, the amount of volume, but there just isn't, because we're not seeing it. You know, I spend 45 minutes in a school zone, I'm getting 4 or 5 citations where little kids are walking. I'm not getting that there, so that my time is, I think, more valuable being spent somewhere else.
And thank you for your input and your good work you do for the city. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Cooper, I will tell you, we have a limit on where we're at because we have 2 other petitions, and we have to be out of here at 5:30 for the licensing commission.
I just have one question on the study and then one question on,
Sure.
no, like seeing things and then addressing them. So on the study, this is just one direction, correct?
Well, the first 10 days was eastbound, and the last 18 days were westbound.
Yeah, so lately there's been more on the, like, from Buckman
I think just the Bachman,
to Stoddard, but
the volume from Bachman Street is because they did shut down both lanes on Lake Ave because they had to cut across, and that's why they were going up. They were actually detoured up Bachman and Stoddard on that particular day. But that's why you saw
it's been
an
for
increase.
2 weeks. I know it's in phase 6 or
Yeah,
whatever
but that's why
that
there
is.
was an increase in volume in that direction, yeah, so.
So if you have 1,700 going in one direction, you probably have 1,700 going in the other direction. So
The numbers are all
it's
there.
really
It's-
like,
yeah. There's no denying that the volume is high. okay?
right.
But, you know, again, thankfully, there has been no incidents. Project is nearing its end, okay? The detour is actually Hudson Street, when cars follow the detour from Lake and Maine, okay? And I agree, the volume's high.
If we could get your second question.
My second question, you said that if you see something, like, you're going to address it. So you've been on the street a lot, and they see cars, like, on their cell phones constantly. There's cars parked in the wrong direction. There's cars parked, like, on the sidewalk. There's cars parked at the intersections. Like, all of that is happening. And if you guys have been down there, why isn't anything being addressed?
I can speak to my own circumstances. I've gone down that street probably every day since September.
But you just
I haven't
drive
seen-
down,
I
right?
haven't seen any of those things that you're speaking on. It's a very wide road. There's cars are parked on both sides. I haven't seen a car parked on the sidewalk. I haven't seen a person talking on a cell phone. I would address it if I did.
Okay, I'm just saying, it's there, and, you know, we have issues
can
there.
only
We
speak- I can
have, we have
speak-
DOT commercial trucks parking overnight, we have people on the sidewalk. I mean, it's, like, I understand you say, like, you have to call, and we have to tell you what's happening, but if you're looking right at something and, like, or you walk right past something and nothing is being done, like, I just don't agree with that.
Ms. Cooper, I don't believe that's the case.
I think you're insulting the integrity of the police department. I don't, yeah. Have you ever driven down the highway and sped more than what the posted speed limit was? Because I personally have. Is it right? Is it wrong? Have you?
Of course, everybody
Yeah,
does.
okay, well,
Yeah.
So what I would
I
suggest...
don't know what that has to do with this, though.
What I would suggest, well, you made a statement, and we just heard Officer Gately, who his reputation precedes itself throughout the whole town.
No, and I appreciate what you do, but, like, even when I was sitting talking to him, he's like, see, everybody's on their cell phone, every single car on their cell phone. Like, you said they're all on Waze.
I've written over 12,000 citations since I've been in traffic. If I see something, they get cited. Don't put words in my mouth.
We had a conversation,
Okay.
and you said they're all on Waze.
Ms. Cooper, we're almost there. I think we've gotten some questions answered that you had today. So at this point, I'm going to ask what the will of the council is regarding this started.
Mr. Chairman, notwithstanding the efforts of the DPW superintendent, who has certain things that he can do at his discretion by right, I would make a motion to place this matter on the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you.
I don't know what, I don't know what.
That means this is placed on the table. You can keep an eye on it in the future. After the construction's over, you can see the clerk and see what would need to be to brought it back to in front of us.
Without needing to file another application or request. We could just bring it off the table.
Correct.
I still don't understand, but that's okay.
And you can feel free to call me as well. Again, I'm your city councilor. This is part of what I do, and I'll be glad to give you any direction I can.
Okay, and there'll be some sort of report.
There's a set, there's minutes that of the meeting
Minutes
that
of the
we'll
meeting.
eventually have.
Agenda minutes.
Which I'll make sure you get.
Okay, I just thought there'd be like an outline of exactly what's gonna get done. No,
Well,
nothing.
We'd go back to look at the minutes if there was any action items in there.
The
But
the
there's
one
no
action
separate.
that I know is Superintendent Duran is going to look at the two intersections and see what can be done for no parking within 20 feet.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Clerk, what do we have? The next matter is,
Business, request for no parking sign on Perry Place at intersection with Elm Street.
okay, is the petitioner here for that matter?
Can I ask a question even though they're not here? I
Sure.
know we had limited time. When I looked at, just without looking at whether it was a public way or a private way, I could absolutely see what the issue was. But then I thought I read something that someone had looked it up, and this was in fact not an accepted city street.
Yes.
So if
They
it,
went by there yesterday, and I definitely see the issue that they have.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue is their driveway is very, very narrow. It's a small lot. But, you know, my suggestion would have been no parking here at a corner at the end of the 48 Elm Street, the next door neighbor's fence, which would give them enough room, you know, to be able to make the turn coming out, because it is a very narrow area. So I do think they have a legitimate issue, but, you know, again, I'm not really sure, since being new to the commission, I'm not sure what it takes to get a sign put up, no parking here at a corner.
on a private way, I think that's the issue.
Well, that was the issue that I think that we're looking
All right,
into.
unacceptable.
Yes,
Can I offer the same motion as the last time? I'll take a look in the field.
sure. Yes.
I went down there and visited it well. I agree with my colleague, and I think from here to the corner, no parking sign, I think would probably, possibly correct that situation. So I'm in agreement with Mr. Jolly.
So why don't we have Commissioner Duran take a look at it and report back to us? So is there a motion?
So moved?
To lay it on the table to the January meeting of the commission?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd second that.
Okay. And the last request for no parking signs on Highland Ave. My
I know that-
understanding is that the petitioner is not here, and that has been resolved. So, yes,
Make a motion to withdraw it?
all in favor?
Can I just speak on this real
Yes.
quickly? Is it possible to table this one as well until we
Sure.
just figure out some of the,
Want to
I'm
withdraw
not sure
your,
if the accepted way was this situation up in Highland Ave you were talking about. but-
I withdraw my motion.
Oh,
Yeah, but this does go a little bit beyond a parking issue, but I'd just like to table it just in case the petitioner wants to
Want to make that motion?
readdress. I'll make a motion, we table it.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that takes care of all our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait a minute, there's one more thing.
What did we miss?
Order to cancel December 21st.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Motion?
So there's been a motion to cancel December 21st meeting, and there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes. Now I'll ask for that motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.